do have a coalition that we formed on May 1st, and it's a coalition of America First Secretary of State candidates around the country. We're getting the word out. The people are excited that there's somebody doing something behind the scenes to try to fix 2020, like President Trump said.
David Plouffe is back with us. He's a former President Obama campaign manager, senior advisor to President Obama. Michael Steele is with us as well. He's a former chairman of the Republican National Committee and the former lieutenant governor of Maryland, host of the Michael Steele podcast. David Plouffe, that was Jim Marchant. He's a Secretary of State candidate in Nevada. I was talking to Steve Bannon. Sounds like a great idea, a coalition of America First Secretaries of State. From a naming and branding perspective, it sounds perfect, but he's actually talking about secretaries of state who are running on a platform to finish the job that he said Donald Trump didn't do, a job that seems to involve overturning the will of the people and suppressing people's votes.
Yeah, Ali, they don't really hide this at all. So, yeah, I guess that's a better name than like ambassadors for autocracy, which is what it is. So let's just, back to our prior discussion. The Republicans, and again, there are Republicans who are opposing what is happening at the state level and want to get to the bottom of January 6th. So let's be clear. But most Republicans right now, elected Republicans, they're passing laws in the states to make it harder for people to vote, and in some cases, take away the responsibility for who wins elections from voters to state legislators. They are putting forward people like that clown you just showed who are running not to, make sure people get registered to vote or process elections, but to basically be the troops on the ground in these states to support an effort to overturn the next election if the Republicans don't win it, particularly if Trump's the nominee. So the Republicans are acting everywhere, and they're doing it methodically with great purpose. They are getting ready. It's kind of like, heads I win, tails you lose. They either win the election in 24, or if they don't, they're preparing to basically never cede power. And that's what this is about. I mean, if they are able to successfully prosecute a coup, we could have Donald Trump and then Donald Trump Jr. and then Ivanka Trump and then Barron Trump. And you can say that's crazy. I think for a lot of Trump's base, they'd be fine with that. The Democrats in Congress have to act with the same urgency that the Republicans are acting with out in the states. And the entire media ecosystem, which is trying to pretend that January 6th was nothing but a tourist visit. So it's very, very dangerous. And I will tell you this, if the protection of our democracy doesn't happen in Washington, if whether you're a swing voter, a Democrat is not sure they're going to vote, to me, there's nothing that could be more demotivating than saying, democracy's at risk and we just couldn't get it done to save it. Like, honestly, you would not question why people would sit out the next election. They have to get this done, most important substantively, but also for the politics.
So, Michael, this is worrisome on a number of levels because there were secretaries of state who were the last line of defense in some states in this last election. But more importantly, there are some Democrats who are talking about what David was just talking about, who don't really think democracy itself is at stake. And there are a lot of Republicans who don't think so either. So they go to the polls as normal in November of this year. And at some point, they may have contributed to the demise of democracy by reelecting or electing Republicans like this guy we just heard from in Nevada, who will then finish the job, at which point we are further away from democracy than we are today.
But, Ali, you raised such an important question or point. Well, then what the hell happened on January 6th? What did you see? How did you look at that? Were you cheering it on in your living room? Or were you damn concerned about the direction this country was potentially heading? You had a sitting president of the United States trying to overthrow the government because he, in his arrogance for power, wanted to stay in power. And for elected officials, especially elected Republicans, who argue constitutional principles and the rule of law, to sit there and do a golf clap about it and pretend it didn't happen, it was just tourists coming through the building, what the hell do you think happens in 2022, 2023, 2024 if Americans don't understand and internalize what they saw? I mean, this is the most stressful part of this, is trying to get people to appreciate just how dangerously close we are. This is not hyperbole, people. The gentleman you just saw said he wants to finish the work of Donald Trump from 2020. What the hell do you think that means?
Yeah. Yeah, he's saying the quiet parts completely out loud. And I think hopefully people are coming to the conclusion that democracy itself is going to be on the ballot come November. Thanks to both of you. As always, it's good to see you, friends. David Plouffe and Michael Steele.